Welcome to Unswaddled, the Nurture by Naps podcast, hosted by real moms and real nurses, offering up honest and uncensored pregnancy and parenting advice. And now your hosts, the co-founders of Naps and Nurture by Naps, board-certified lactation consultants, and mothers to a small girl gang, Emily Silver, a family nurse practitioner, and Jamie O'Day, a registered nurse.
Hey guys, it's Emily and Jamie here.
How's everybody doing? We're here for a hot topic, one of our favorites today.
I mean, I hope that you guys laugh out loud at this episode because
we laughed thinking about it.
Yeah, we did. So this episode, we're going to talk about this concept of what is it costing you? And we're going to explain this concept a little bit further, but I want to credit Jancee Dunn, who is the author of How Not to Hate Your Husband After Kids.
You guys, this book is so good.
It's so funny.
It's so funny.
A lot of the stories that I'll tell you guys today, I changed my reaction based on reading this book, and you'll understand when I tell these stories.
And the book, by the way, is a catchy title, but it doesn't mean like that you hate your husband or you will hate your husband. It's like to get you to buy the book and catch it. It actually is really great advice.
As a total side note, I say all the time. So Jancee, if you ever listen to this and anybody who's read the book, I think if she named the book How to Have More Sex with Your Husband After Having Kids, that would have been doubled. Can you see it though? Like it would be like your husband coming over and be like, "Hey babe, like, I'll do the dishes tonight. Yeah. Don't you have that book that you want?"
That would turn me on,
right? Or I want
all the laundry.
Or I want to write a book called How to Get Your Wife to Have More Sex with You After Having Kids.
And then dads can buy it.
Yes. And then men can read it. Yeah. And it's like, learn how to pack the diaper bag and help with like the dishes or the laundry or like the invisible work. And I think that it could be sold together as like how to get your wife to have more sex with you and like how to
have a great marriage.
Yeah.
Anyway. But the title's funny. And I always point this out though, because I feel like when people haven't had their baby yet, they're sort of like, how to not hate my husband? Like, how would I ever hate my husband? I love him so much. And then when we talk about it in our mom survival guide groups with our new moms, they think it's hilarious. Yeah. But I was in Florida sitting by the pool and really wanted to finally listen to this book. And I had a really nice like cocktail and I ordered it on Amazon Audible. And my husband and I were together on vacation. We had left the girls. And he was sitting in the chair next to me. We had our sunglasses on and our drinks in the sun and blah, blah, blah. I forgot Amazon is his account.
Connected.
And he got like an automatic email as I started listening to the book and tapped me and was like, what the fuck? Did you just order a book about like how to not hate me? And I was like, oh, this is for work. It's for research for work. He was like, okay.
So in the book, she talks about this concept of like, what is it costing? Like asking yourself before you react, before you engage in the argument, what is it costing? Before you open your
mouth and say anything.
Yes. So we actually talk about this in our pre-baby boot camp. It's like one of these sneaky topics that we sneak into our prenatal education that like parents don't know that they need, but really actually do need, right? But the idea is, what is it costing you? And basically there's two options of what it's costing you, right? It is either costing you nothing or something that is beneficial to you. And I'm going to give you that example in just a second. If it's costing you nothing, right? Or if it's costing you something that's beneficial to you, you keep your big fat mouth shut, right? If it's costing you something that is detrimental to your physical health, to your mental health, to your well-being, your baby's well-being, your marriage, relationship with somebody else, then you say something. And then you go on to, there's a structure of like how to actually engage in a conversation in a way where the other person listens and you feel like you're communicating well and you're getting what you want, right?
It's really hard to like bite your tongue and stop yourself. But after you listen to this or read the book, you'll get really good at it.
It's such a good effort.
Where you like go to open your mouth to say something to somebody, usually your partner or your husband, and you're like, should I really say something?
So I want to start with telling you the story of a time where I had to keep my mouth shut.
Well, you didn't, but
I didn't. And then I learned to
you got
before
lucky.
It was too late. So after I had my second daughter, on the weekend still, my husband still mostly gets up with the kids in the morning. I'm going to make my husband is wonderful. I'm going to make him sound like the fucking hero during this podcast right now. So love you, babe. You'll appreciate this. But after I had my second, and still to this day, my husband gets up with the girls either one morning on the weekends or both. And so after I had my second, he was doing this. And what would happen is he would get up with them in the morning. I would sleep in, usually get an extra 45 minutes or hour of sleep. He would get them up, get them dressed, and then usually take them out to get like
Delightful.
coffee or breakfast. And when he came back, I would then get up and I would go into the family room and I would almost like immediately comment on what he dressed the kids in, either because it was like mismatched or too big or too small.
Not seasonally appropriate.
Yeah. Whatever the case may be. Right. Like there was something about
Easter
the outfit.
dress on a cold winter day.
I actually never did that, but yeah, I would comment in some way on like what they were wearing. Now my husband could have very easily told me to go fuck myself. He thankfully didn't. I read this book before he did, or maybe he wanted to, and he actually bit his tongue, and realized that when I asked myself, like, as I was reading the book, I was like, oh my God.
Shut the fuck up.
After I read the book, I was like, oh my God, like me making that comment could have costed me an hour of sleep.
Yeah, because he could have been like, fuck you.
Screw you.
You get up in the morning and you get the kids dressed.
Right.
You
or
do the
lay out,
breakfast and the walk and like don't sleep for the hour.
Or you lay out
That's
their
what
clothes
AJ would have done.
Right. Like in some way, shape, or form, though, it would have added more work to my plate.
You fucking do it.
Right. So I thankfully like smartened up, shut my mouth. My husband still gets up with the kids. In the mornings, one or both mornings on the weekend. So like that's an example of something where it was actually, that could have cost me something that benefited me. And in that situation, I kept my mouth shut. You're going to keep your mouth shut. Alternatively, there could be the scenario where it actually just doesn't cost you anything at all. I feel like the story that comes up a lot is like what your partner ends up doing with the kids when you're out doing something.
All the time. I feel like in all of my mom survival guide groups, this happens in different aspects of their marriage where like a husband, for example, on a Saturday or a Sunday I'm thinking of a couple of different stories. So I'm going to merge them into one, but as a good example, but like a husband will offer to take the baby on a Saturday so the mom can shower or work out or go eat something or just do like whatever.
Right.
And maybe they choose during that time to watch football.
Right.
And they chill with the baby. They tend to the baby. They still feed the baby, do their diaper, but they stay in and they watch football and they check the phone. They check their phones sometimes. That really riles moms up. And it bothers like a lot of these moms that we work with and I'll say to them like, well, why is it bothering you? And the answer is usually like, well, that's not what I would do.
Right. I go out.
What about books?
Yeah.
Tummy time,
right.
Black and white mobile time, like stimulating developmental things. And I'm sort of like, this is not actually costing anything.
No.
Leave them alone. Go do what you want to do. Like, who cares what they're doing?
Right.
Honestly, who cares?
If you come back and the baby has been fed and went down for a nap and is happy, all is good in the world.
Right.
Right.
Versus it could cost you something, right?
Right. So
I feel,
go ahead.
Like it could, people are probably listening thinking like, but like what about when they miss a feed or when they miss a nap? So yeah, there are definite like examples where you leave and you come back, whether it's your husband or maybe it's like your mother-in-law
right.
or whoever, like a family member that came over and they watched the baby and you walk in the door and they're like, it was such a beautiful time. Like they never slept. Like they were just so happy that we just had such a great time. I did do that feed like an hour after you said I should and only for half the amount. And then you have a baby that like didn't eat and they missed their nap and now they leave and go home, whoever was with them, and you're stuck with like this nightmare baby.
Right.
That's costing you something.
Totally. They're
that
overtired. They're fussy.
Right.
You keep, it ends up being a really shitty rest of the day for you.
And you're like, why did I even go
right.
get my nails done? Like that wasn't even worth it.
Right.
Wasn't even worth it to come home to this mess.
So the solution isn't not ever leaving the house again without your baby or not ever leaving your baby with your partner or another family member. A lot of people choose that as their solution. I know, but that's not the solution.
It wasn't worth it to get my nails done. Right. I'm not going to go anymore. Right. I won't go on Saturday. It's not worth it.
Right. So I want to get you away from that being the solution.
Don't do that.
And actually offer up an alternative solution, which would be engaging in a conversation with the person, whether that's your partner or a family member or, mother or mother-in-law, whatever, about what it is costing you and offering up a solution. There's actually research that has been done. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in communication, right? But there's research that has been done on how to effectively communicate with anybody, partner, family member, coworkers, friends. And sort of the magic formula is to start with an I statement. If you start with an I statement, then you don't run the risk of somebody being defensive, right? As soon as you say you don't do anything, I do everything. They're not listening to you anymore. They're automatically on the defense.
I really try to avoid that with my husband. I'm like, because if I say, you didn't blah, 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 or you did this or that, he doesn't even hear me anymore. I can see like his shoulders rise and smoke coming out of his ear and he's ready to like come back at me.
Yeah.
Versus I'm like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now because you didn't blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So the magic formula is starting with an I statement. I am feeling, putting your feeling in, right? When putting in the scenario, it would be really helpful for me. I would be less overwhelmed. I wouldn't be as bitchy. I default to being bitchy. I wouldn't be as bitchy if X, Y, and Z happened. Do you think that you could do that for me?
Right.
Right. That, and I'm going to give you guys an example from my life of how I've used this, but that is a much better way of approaching the conversation than you do nothing. I do everything. You don't listen to me. You don't even know how to take care of the baby. Right. Like, and we've all been there. I am by no means saying that there aren't times where the you comes out of me too. And it's, a defensive argument that I get into with my husband or whoever.
Right.
But this is like, if you're consciously sort of like thinking about first, what is it costing me? Okay. It is actually costing me something. And now I'm going to engage in the conversation. Okay. I'm going to engage in the conversation in this way. Then the result is going to be, one, you're just going to have better communication and a better conversation. And two, you're going to get what you want. Right. So I'm going to use the example of another story in my life of, again, I think it was definitely after I had my second, I found myself in this like pattern and routine of, doing like the bedtime and the bedtime routine. Maybe it was actually after my first, it doesn't matter, but so, semantics here, but I was doing, the bedtime routine and bedtime later. I would cook dinner, we'd eat dinner. And then after dinner, I would do bedtime, the bedtime routine, put Kate, we'll say that I only have one kid, put Kate, my oldest, to bed, come out from putting her to bed to dishes in the sink from dinner, right? So I would cook, there'd be pots and pans in the sink, the dishes from when we ate, and my husband would be on the couch watching TV. And I totally was the person who like huffed and puffed,
you slammed
the dishes around intentionally so that my husband would ask me what was wrong so that I would respond to him, nothing. Why are you asking me what's wrong?
Fine.
Nah.
I'm not mad at all that I'm doing these fucking dishes after I cooked the dinner and did bedtime.
And sometimes it would result in a fight. Sometimes he would just be like, all right, cool, she's fine. And while I'm slamming the dishes in the dishwasher, I would be, making up a massive story in my head. My husband thinks that his job is more important than mine.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't appreciate me. He doesn't appreciate everything that we do for what I do for this family. There's so many things that I do that he doesn't even know that I do. That like, we're not on the same page. He
probably thinks he's more tired than me because he's sitting on the couch, but I'm actually more tired.
Yeah.
That's a whole episode on that. I'm tired. I'm more tired than you. No, I'm tired.
So there's, So this whole story goes on and we've all been there and it results in.
Here's the $1 million question. Did you ever ask him to do the dishes?
Right.
Did you ever ask him to do the dishes?
No, at this point I had not. Right. So this story, hopefully you guys are relating to the story because it always ends in me and my husband getting a divorce. Right. Which obviously has not happened 6 years later. I'm telling you the story 6 years later. And no, to Emily's point, I never just asked him to do dishes. So I read this book, right? I'm like, oh, I need to shut my mouth about the outfits. And I need to just ask him to do the dishes, right? So you guys literally, this probably happened, so Mackenzie must have been born, but this probably happened 3 or 4 years ago, right? I realized that I was making up this story every time about the goddamn dishes. And my husband tells me all the time, like, babe, if there's something that you want me to do or need me to do, you just have to tell me. Don't get mad. We don't have to get into a blowout fight. Just ask me, right? He says this to me all the time. So I think of this story about, read the book. And I'm thinking about this story about the dishes. And one day I was like, hey, babe, this is how I said it. Hey, babe, on the nights that I cook dinner, do you think that you could do the dishes? It would like help me out a ton. I think I would be like less bitchy and overwhelmed in evenings. He was like, yeah, sure. No problem. Guys, this was 3-4 years ago, he literally does the dishes
every night. Even I'm there a lot for dinner, you guys.
Every night.
That guy's in the kitchen loading that dishwasher. Every time.
So, and prior to this, when we had the conversation about it, it was usually a blow up fight about nothing that had to do about the dishes, right? And that's actually all that I wanted. And that was a huge help. So I think our biggest takeaways with this is like, the step one is just really like getting clear on what it's costing you. And I hope that you're listening to this and you're like,
I guess to identify like it's costing you something. If it's costing you like, first of all, like physical harm, safety, distress, mental health, emotional instability, maybe
a fussy or overtired baby or a challenging kid.
Actually, she just uses the example of laundry.
Yeah.
Like her husband does laundry and he does it not every day, probably the way that she would do it. Or a lot of people do things like every day. It's always running. It's always folded. I'm not like that. I let it build up. But she ran out of like clean underwear.
Right.
And that was costing her something. Right. She was like, it's so great that you're doing the laundry. I need you to do it more often though, because I literally am running out of underwear and it smells.
Yeah.
So it could just be something simple like that too.
Right. And it may be something where you have to like evaluate over time if it's actually costing you something, because you might be making up the story of like it costing you something when it's really not. But we just wanted to start with giving you this framework because I think it can be really helpful. It just, honestly, you guys, it'll just decrease like the number of arguments that you're getting into.
Huge.
One, because you're just not going to engage in the conversation for a lot of things, right?
It makes everything so much easier too.
Right. And then two, when you're engaging in the conversation, you're doing it in a way where you're actually communicating.
Right. I need you to just X, Y, and Z. Like it's so simple.
Right.
Anyway, but my favorite thing of this is like, and especially now that you're listening, is I wonder if people are thinking like all the little shit that you do open your mouth about that you're like, I can't do that anymore.
So there's a caveat to this. There is a caveat to this.
So many things, right?
And the caveat to this that Emily and I use in boot camp as the example that a lot of people do is if you want something done like a very specific way,
you got to do it yourself.
Yeah. So like we use the example of like reloading, like let's say like your partner or you load the dishwasher and your partner always reloads it.
This is
your partner folds the laundry.
Common that people load their dishwasher and another person in the home opens it and doesn't approve of the way it was loaded or the plates aren't loaded properly or what the fuck ever. And they reload it.
Same with the laundry.
Redo it.
So many people refold the laundry.
Oh yeah.
So if you're the person who reloads, or your partner is the person who reloads the laundry, or you're the person who refolds, or your partner is the person who refolds the laundry, then if you want it done a specific way, if you ask your partner to do it and you don't like the way that they're doing it, you can ask them to do it differently. Like Emily just gave in the example from Jancee from the book. But if it's actually like a very specific way that you want it done and it's kind of an outrageous request, like then you just need to fucking do it yourself.
Right. Like, and then he does all the laundry and we fold things completely differently. And when he'll put my laundry away too. And he just like puts the clothes on top of my other clothes in the drawer and shuts it. Right. Mm-hmm. And I like sometimes organize things or have it in a certain way, but I don't say anything about that. Clean laundry that's been folded and put in my drawer. Like I can easily reshuffle it.
Right.
But if I said to him, like, this isn't how you fold it, or this isn't the drawer where I put my shirts, he would literally tell me to go screw.
I know.
Do your own laundry.
Right. So that's the other piece of it. So like, if you are that specific about it and yeah, if you want it done like a very specific way, or you want to keep reloading or refolding, you totally can. But it also just might be worth you doing it yourself. Because if you're refolding it or reloading the dishwasher, you're probably having these feelings of like anger and resentment, which aren't fucking worth it either.
Give them the chore and
give them something else.
Give yourself the chore, right? If you want to do it, and then give them something else. Take the trash out.
Yes. Right.
Whatever.
Just
walk the dog.
Yeah.
People go after their partner all the time about how they dress their kid.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
Oh no, that's why I like to give that example.
Or like I'll have like people put the onesie on backwards or the pants on backwards. Or
not line up the
top
snaps.
and the snaps aren't lined up, or the top and the bottom don't match. And people will comment on that. And it's like, don't just leave it alone. Who cares?
All right. So to summarize, you're going to, if something is bothering you, you're going to ask yourself, what is it costing me? Is it costing you nothing? Is it costing you something that benefits you? You're going to say nothing and probably thank the person for whatever it is that they're doing.
While you're at it, shut the fuck up, but first say thank you.
And then on the flip side, if it is costing you something, right? Something that, is that it's costing you something emotionally, physically, your child's emotional health, your relationships, whatever, you're going to engage in the conversation. And in engaging in the conversation, use the secret formula, right? You're going to start with an I statement. You're going to state how you feel. You're going to offer up a solution to the problem and how that solution is going to make you feel, right? This is important because when somebody loves you and you're offering them up a solution that is going to make you feel better, they love you, they want you to feel better. So they're going to say yes, right? And then when they do what you ask, they thank you. There's actually a lot of research done also on like the more gratitude you show, the more gratitude you get in return.
Right.
And if you're like anything like everybody, I know like everybody wants to feel more appreciated.
Right.
So sometimes
and you have to ask.
Right.
Just because like a lot of people probably heard your dinner story and thought, well, Jamie cooks the dinner every night. Of course her husband should do the dishes.
Just ask.
No, just ask. Like they can't read your mind. Like they don't know.
Right.
They don't know. You gotta ask.
Right. And if there are things that are being done by someone else that you want done a very specific way and it's making you angry or making you feel resentful, then just do it yourself and offload a different task. Okay.
Right.
So
unless it's your kid, then you might have to deal with it.
True.
Right. Yeah. Just let them watch football.
Right.
Or let them do whatever they want to do.
Right. When they're watching your kid.
Yeah. Still go get your nails done.
Yes. All right. So hopefully you guys took away some tips from this. We would love to hear how these are working for you. So I don't know, post about it on social media, tag us.
I know, tag us.
Let us know what you're offloading.
What is it costing me?
Let us know.
Nothing.
Yeah. It's costing you nothing or something. But we are excited for you guys to take some tips away from this and hopefully make your lives a little bit easier.
Yeah, no more, decrease the fighting.
Yes.
Decrease the arguing, the bickering.
Exactly. All right, you guys, we'll see you next week.
All right.
And talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, check out our other virtual and in-person offerings. For more information, meet us over at nurturebynaps.com and on Instagram and Facebook, where our handle is Nurture by Naps. We can't wait to see you there.